All right, now I want to talk a little bit about the Progeny Adventure Group LLC. I want to do that to kind of, I want to be kind of clean and transparent with who you're doing business with, why I created the company, all that sort of thing. I don't have to do this. I'm in no obligation. I just feel like it's good to kind of come out and explain why it is that we set up the company the way it is and all that sort of thing. As you could probably tell, I do dress up a bit. This is a bit costumey. However, if you did meet me in person, I might be wearing something very similar. So I think it's interesting to kind of play the part, and I want to really go into a little bit about why we do this, why we put the green screen behind us. I can sort of clap and it can change, because in post-production I made a clip, end right there, and another one began exactly at that audio signal. Why do I do that? I want to go the extra step. I want to go the extra mile. This isn't fooling nobody. The foreground is me. You know what I mean? There's microphones right here. I don't want to have that microphone in your face look. Those are dynamic microphones. And it's because people are too lazy to make theirself a studio. Surrounding me is a very well controlled room. This is actually done in stereo. There's two Neumann, I think they're KM 184s. Above me, running into a Blackmagic Cinema Camera 6K, not the Pocket series. We have some Pocket series off to the side for live shows, stuff like that we're going to be doing. But they're the main full frame camera I wanted for this. Now, of course, it'll pick up my tie. It'll have a little bit of moire. But I do have lights that come in from the side, all that sort of thing. Two of them that cover hair lights, all that sort of thing. And then I got some bigger ones off to the side with soft boxes, all that sort of thing. So it's going to tell you a little bit about the studio. I happen to have a red desk. Why? Because the kind of the opposite primary color to green is red. And whatever has kind of a shiny surface turns green unless you really pump some light into it. And so I kind of cover this desk so that I can lay our little computer on, so that when I open it, I can do our courses and stuff from what they're actually going to be seeing. Also, I could talk a little bit about some notes that I've got, keeps me on track, all that sort of thing. I'll flip it around here, some books if I decide to talk about them. All that sort of thing. My phone in case somebody calls me and I don't want to talk to them, because I'm making a video. I love you guys. That's why I'm doing this. And I have a little bench off to the side. This is one of those tables that can go up or down. All that sort of thing in case I want to stand up. All that. I was a little late to the parenting game. Whenever I grew up, I was the firstborn. And I had home field advantage for a long time. Not only was I firstborn of our family, I was the first one that came out for my mother's siblings. There was enough age difference in my father's side so that by the time I came along, the other ones were already, 7 or 8. So their family situation kept them off a little bit. So by the time I came along, I was kind of doted on by both grandparents and all that sort of thing. Had a really good, wonderful childhood. So whenever I started playing music, I noticed that once I got to be a teenager, inevitably, one of them crazy long-haired heavy metal dudes eventually would knock up some girl, have to pawn all of his music stuff, get out of playing in a band, and he was the dishwasher at a Mexican restaurant or something, trying to make ends meet. And I knew I didn't want to be that guy. So I didn't want children for the majority of my life. I nearly died when I was 30-something, it'd be 2014, pancreatitis. I didn't know I was a diabetic. And the very last day of the Winter Olympics, I decided to eat about half a carton of ice cream that set me into a a very life-threatening situation. I had to go into the ICU for like 10 or 11 days and then 2.5 months with this tube down my throat. They filled me up full of this stuff, and then from catheters to everything else, I oozed out things until they run enough chemistry through me to make me lose about 70 pounds. A lot of the muscles and stuff around my hip region moved, so I had to learn to walk again a little bit. And I had a lot of time to sit around and think. They told me whenever I was in there, I also had a mini stroke, so this is why this side looks a little funny. I found out I had a brain tumor in my pituitary gland, and that there was something wrong with my heart. By the time I was 40, no worries, we'll deal with it then. Well, that was the very next year. My heart started going crazy at atrial fibrillation. It was really bad enough to where I had to have wear a lot of heart monitors before they could figure out what happened to me. So, and this is going somewhere. Don't click off yet. All right. But anyway, so it made me have heart surgery. So for 3 hours and 52 minutes, a few of the Vanderbilt's best up here in Nashville put me on this little surfboard-looking thing and bent me at weird angles to pretty much fry up a lot of my electrical connections. And it was waiting for this, or right after this, that I found out I was going to be a father at 38 years old. And I was just like, you know what? My wife kind of always wanted to at least have one. And we decided, let's do this. Let's give it a shot. I was like, I could probably do this. I didn't know how much longer I was going to have or anything. And I'm still not close to death, even though I've still got some bad problems. One does not get out very clean if you come from the standpoint of me. So anyway, we decided that since the process of having a baby had already started, we're just going to see how this goes. Well, she went along decently enough before her cervix started to fail. So she had to have the cerclage, and that was to hold our daughter in as long as she could. This was at like 20 weeks. So we knew that if it failed, there wasn't going to be anybody else. You know what I mean? It was there's just no way to save something that is like less than a pound in a good way. But we held her in till she was 26 weeks, 2 days. So we give birth, I didn't, obviously. My wife gave birth to our daughter, who was 1 pound, 13 ounces. So it was 112 something. We rounded it up. She was like 820 grams, something like that. She missed micro preemie by like 20, so. Anyway, very small person. We had to go into like the category 4 NICU, where we've seen a lot of kids not make it. Okay, this is the people that are they're the worst. There's really nothing much worse than this. So the very smallest were in there, and of course, every time it happened, we keep thinking, are we going to be next? We'd get those phone calls in the middle of the night. Hey, she's not doing well, so do you want to come up here? We're going to have to do a blood transfusion and this and that. And so would be weighing should we get up? Should we try? Should we just say, she didn't really know us? So there was a lot of things that we were tired, we were haggard, all that sort of thing. So so that happened to me. And of course, everything went fine, all right? She's behind me in the room playing. She's 8 years old now, all that sort of stuff. But whenever I had heart surgery, I had to go in this this funny-looking bed. What they give you in the hospital, what they do in your operating procedure is a little different style system. And I think it's for electronic reasons to make things happen. And where they do the operations looks different than anything else you'd see. And I remember looking around My little eyes are going crazy. I'm like, oh my goodness, this looks way different than normal hospital rooms. And of course, whenever I got to the room they were going to use, it looked more like a radio station. There was stuff built into the walls, there was stuff hanging out of the ceiling. And like I said, there was a surfboard style bed. And it's so that they can put you in some of this and pull your arms and legs or whatever else you need back to get into the places that you need to be. And there's like 11 people. They're all smiling like, we're here to help you. And I was like, good. Then they put that silver patch on you. And it's like, what does this do? Well, if things don't go good, it's like, oh no, I got a feeling I know what's going to happen. All that sort of thing. And then when they took my daughter, I got to be on to squeeze the hand with one hand, take pictures with the camera with the other hand. So I got to photograph my daughter being born. And they took her away and put the little PICC lines in her and all that stuff. And then they wheel her over there to mom in this big apparatus. It's like, size of a car, looks like sideways. Anyway, it's a large thing. It has oxygen and all kinds of chemistry tanks and stuff on the back for air, and it's got a little thing in the front they call a giraffe. It's an isolette, but it's the good company that made ours. And she gets to see mom a little bit, and then dad gets to go with her to the NICU. And while I'm going, she can't see nothing. She was just born like minutes ago. But my daughter is doing the same thing I'm doing. She's checking out sights and she's hearing things, because she just left an aquatic environment. And anyway, so she's on her way to the NICU. I'm over here beside her, behind her. I'm taking all these photos. And I'm bonding with her because I know exactly pretty much what's going through her head. She's just, and her head's like the size of a walnut. She's only like 13 inches long total. And all that sort of thing. So, and we were cool. We did our like 89, 90 days, however you call it, count it. And we had to live at the hospital before this. We were ready to go after a while. So once we got the whole NICU experience and we get back home, we had to kind of learn to be parents. We had to learn to be medical staff, all that sort of thing. And then we also had to learn how to be us. Now that we have a daughter, now that I'm going towards 39. My mother-in-law become a grandmother at 39. So, my mother at 42. You know what I mean? Now I'm basically 47 and I have an 8-year-old. So it was kind of a strange thing that goes on, but I kind of went back home and got to thinking about things, and I wanted to start a website, I thought. And, I wanted a podcast at that time. Podcasting was getting huge. Everybody got those mics right up in their face and, usually just got to hear them. It's before they really started doing the video podcast. And I thought I wanted to do that. Got all of it set and ready. And then I thought, well, hold on. I need to talk about parenting, but I'm kind of new to it. And it took me a while to sort of stratify my way of thinking into the layers necessary to make what I predicted was the way somebody should parent. Because I knew I didn't know anything about it. I knew I wanted to avoid it at all costs. And usually those people I find out are sometimes the better ones. I'm not saying that applies to me. It's just that sometimes if somebody has to do something they don't really want to do, they want to find out how to do it the quickest and most effective way possible. And they'll sometimes figure out ways to do something better than sometimes somebody that loves it. And all that sort of thing. So that's what I did. I said I needed to start a few shows. Of course, the preemie paradox, because I just had a preemie. But I was too emotionally connected, and I found out that I was kind of a mess. There's a lot of studies that show us fathers, we don't go through the same things that the mothers do, but sometimes we could fall apart later once we kind of learn to sigh and breathe, and then we start the crying and the double guessing and it turns out to be terrible. Generally, not to say that it's going to be that way for everybody. And then I also wanted the older dad show. And what I figured out was if you're 36 or over before you had your first child, not first child with your third wife, I mean first total. You never had a kid before you were 36. It's just 18 times 2. So basically you live 18 years after your 18th birthday. So by the time you turn an adult, you've done it basically twice. Get it? So 36 and up. I was 38 going towards 39, so I was definitely within my own boundary because I don't want to be a hypocrite, right? And anyway, from there, I noticed that the way I can implicate myself into this new genre of the was to make more of a show. I thought at first, but I didn't have a website or nothing like that. So I learned how to do websites. Once I got 1 or 2 of them, I wanted a few more because I noticed that there was areas of parenting that sort of connected. It meshed in a way. And then some of these positions were almost like 3D, like picture a ball next to another ball, but then a third ball that's back here. And then I sort of spidered these because I'm an engineer too. So once I kind of figured out how they interrelate and the sort of symbiosis that goes on, this synchronicity, I guess, was a cool word. But how that happens is also peculiar. And of course, it could be different within a person's age, person's socioeconomical level. There's just a lot of implicators that can show sort of a deviation point that could be exploited in a way, sometimes by ourselves and sometimes by others. So I knew that this parenting thing was a lot harder than I anticipated. So I did the best thing, which was to hold off a little while because I didn't want to be part of the problem. I wanted to be part of the solution. Now that after I've been in it a few years, I'm obviously doing this. And since I've been in the tourism industry since 2010, did all the state stuff, I was in it to win it, okay? Also, as a commercial photographer and video person, I understood the media side of it. Got about 102,000 people follow me right now over on Facebook. I don't do as much on YouTube because I figured out that I thought I could get a lot of advertising dollars because in between 2010 and say 2015, if you were an advertiser, you did okay. A lot of the tools, especially the Web 2 tools, Facebook, Twitter, social media marketing was relatively, young. They were just now starting to develop tools for you to use. And once you figured out how to connect them and all that sort of thing, you would do okay. I was used to that world. Obviously, it's changed now that AI and everything, as I'm recording this in 2025, things have moved on. Pay-per-click and all that stuff is probably going to be AI-driven. Used to, whatever you'd search, you would have a page or search, search engine results page. The SERP would tell you what all it came back with, and if you changed the arrangement of your sentence, it would come back with different results that was fetching from websites to fill in this. Now it's sort of like summarized by this AI algorithm, and so it's a little bit more difficult. You come away with an answer, but you don't know if that's a hallucination. So whenever you try to find out how to be a good parent, you'll find that a lot of our information is hallucinations. Knowing that now, we need to kind of learn to lean more on better knowledge that's probably older, unfortunately. Not to say that you have to follow it, completely, but I feel like picking and choosing based on needs is probably a good way. And a lot of that stuff has to come through brains and experience, where contextual knowledge is probably pretty good. A wise person is usually more correct, you know what I mean, than a person that's just trying to be an influencer by saying the latest, greatest lines. It tends to get more people in trouble, I believe. And of course, you know which one there's more of. Way more people trying to influence you to tell you, just buy this thing from me, as they try to do some scheme. I didn't want to do that, so I'm going to offer courses. Courses that I make up here with the green screen and all the stuff I just mentioned, from what we would call an operating company. Like I mentioned a while ago, we have two things that we're going to really focus on. That's travel and children. This is going to be parenting. So our sole customer that we'd like to approach the best is a person that has children, or at least have children under their care. Some people become step parents or something like that, and they have to figure out where am I in this? And sometimes kids are harsh and they're going to hurt your feelings, and that's going to happen even if you have one, like I do. Mine hurts my feelings a lot. But I love her, and I'm in it for the long haul. So some of what I'm doing, I'm trying to parlay into other things. I obviously got a business partner, Josh, and then my wife is also the third member. So the three of us come together and we fight like dogs because we're passionate, extremely passionate. I'd always learned this about people that they say this phrase: if you're going to salsa dance as a guy, I guess, dance with the lady that'll smack your face, because only she can dance with passion. And I thought, yeah, that's probably a good idea. Parenting is such a broad topic, and especially now that there's so much that has to be there for it to continue. Do you live in a house? Do you have an apartment? Is that apartment in a good neighborhood by which parenting can thrive? Is there security? Is there a bus route? Is there public transport for the day that your car don't start? Or in the night somebody runs into your car, I don't know, or steals your car, I don't know, whatever. Do you have a support network in case something happens? Do you have people that you can rely on? Do those people have kids that can be friends with your kids? Are your kids protected from the future by your income? Does your income allow for allowances? Can your income allowances be built up through things like Roth IRAs or educational savings accounts or something like that with college later or trade school? There's just so many things that you do, especially educational. Can you augment your child's education? It's a whole show. We have a whole, like the kudzu crawl, all that sort of thing. So I'm going to start bringing in some of these other companies. The Progeny Adventure Group is basically an umbrella that does nothing but hold operating companies into it. Does that make any sense? This is a business thing. If you're into this, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, just follow along. The operating companies are the things that actually do the real work. They're going to offer the courses. I'm always going to have a free version and a paid. Obviously, there's only going to be about 10% of the paid stuff in the free version. But the free version is for people that don't want to pay for the other one. Very few of my stuff is over a couple $100, okay? And you get in it for life. And every time I update it, you just get a free update. You know what I mean? So, but I never wanted money to be a barrier to entry, because there's some people that just asking for $100 might as well be $1,000. And I don't want to do that to anybody. So there'll be some good stuff in the free version, even if you don't take the paid one. But the paid ones are generally going to be better. And of course, the paid ones are going to be hosted on the Progeny Adventure Group LLC, that website. So progenyadventuregroup.com. I'll put all this stuff in the links below. Just, go down there and check it out if this interests you. This video is also going to be on an About Us type page, but I'm hosting it here on YouTube. So if you do find us, you know what I mean, you want to know what guy that looks like he come out of the 1800s or 1900s, a little bit about him, that'll take you there. I'm doing this for transparency too. So I really do think if we're all the best parents we offer a lot of love and time and all that stuff, because you pay kids in time, you know what I mean? You get groceries with money, but you help children when you pay them in time. And if you have good quality time, they'll usually learn to love and respect you, listen to what you say, and become better people because of that relationship. If you don't have anything to do with them, they become feral and wild. They could be a terrible thing to society. But if everybody did the best they can with the children in their care, then we won't have a lot of our societal problems. So by starting this company and all that sort of thing, what I'd like to do is kind of give everybody a way to learn what they need to make themselves better, and therefore they can lead their children better. Because there's really not a lot of really good self-diagnosis kits, so I don't want to do that because I think that changes the person. I don't want to change people, really. I think there's good in everybody. But there's also bad in everybody, too. I mean, so if you're taught from your dad, say I'm a guy, I'm just going to use the dad analogy, or just mom could be the same way. Mother Dearest is a good movie. It's showing what could happen if your mom is just absolutely terrible. But if you're a dad telling your boys that unless you do great in sports, great in school, great in life, you're a piece of garbage, if you fail anything, you're a piece of crap, and what that does to a kid, it almost sets them on this idea that if I don't do it, I'm this or that, and if I fail at all, then what's the use? So by you showing them or telling them how the world works and how nobody loves you, that's probably not a great thing to do. So, of course, that's why we find all these men, usually. I call them man boys sometimes because they could be incredibly obnoxious, who are basically feral. They've had to raise themselves in some regard, in some manner, and they feel like a lot of times that people have taken advantage of them, that they've missed out on a lot of things in life, all that sort of stuff. And who knows, maybe they're right. Maybe they're interpreting it wrong. So maybe they feel that they're right, and they're never going to come off of it because it's an emotional, not a logical decision that they're making to believe the way they do. And I'm not a shrink. I'm not a psychologist. All that stuff. I am into philosophy now. I will go through a lot of philosophical things. I've done that since I was 15. And I think the great conversations are worth to have. As far as like writings of Marcus Aurelius or something, as far as Stoicism versus Epicureanism, I don't get into that much. I think that's more of a sales tactic right now. I guess if you had to push me on one, I'm probably more Epicurean. Because Zeno kind of taught that life was all about pain, which is probably what you'd need to say if you want to keep people in pain, or to look at their pain as a good thing. I want to avoid it at all cost. I would rather perfect my person in a different way. I'm not going to lift weights and talk about my gains and restructure my language to fit the word riz, any of that sort of thing. I don't think that's a good way to get on with things, by trying to move vocabulary and lifting into my young lifestyle and use it on older people that may not know it, when we have the contextual arrangement by which we've seen a lot of life in previous years, so we can make really good decisions on what we need to in the age that we are. You know what I mean? So I feel like there's a lot of place I could do there in the Older Dad Show. Since it's the Older Dad Show, and it's one that I most, I guess it's the OG, or, if you want to call it that. I don't know what they call stuff now, but my original passion was the Older Dad Show. And that's why, too, that I wear this kind of stuff, is because the older dad, is something that I do. And of course, the Older Dad Show and the Older Dad on Facebook is some pages that I deal with. I guess I'm more known for the Amish things. I happen to be in Lawrence County, Tennessee, and this is the home of the largest Amish community in the South. They're Schwarzenegger Amish, which means the least amount of technology. and they're some of the most open to what they call the English. Okay, now if anything that's not, or anybody that's not Amish is called English. You could be Japanese and you're still English to the Amish. Now, what they have is a lot of areas that are not becoming of our culture. Say, for example, that people say today, nobody wants to have kids. Nobody wants to work. Everybody wants to work from home because they're lazy. Everybody wants to this or that. And in the Amish world, they all work from home, and the Schwarzentrooper Amish stuff. It's not uncommon to see 8 to 12 children in a single family. 6 is kind of like the average, So everybody has chores, and this man who has to lead everything can afford a 150-acre farm, a 2-story house with 4 to 6 bedrooms, a washroom, which is kind of their way of doing laundry, and a big garden, and he could pay for it by making cedar chairs. I kid you not. There's 330 or so houses in Etheridge. I have the Amish of Etheridge as one of our pages. The Amish and Mennonite of Tennessee is where I run around talking to all the different Anabaptist groups I can get a hold of. I basically go from North Carolina all the way to Missouri at the moment. I haven't been up north as much because they have a lot of traffic already. So I go to some of the lesser known areas, and they have no trouble working every single person. If you're 2 years old, you can hold a dustpan for your 3-year-old sister to sweep up, trash into it. Oh, yeah. So they don't have tablets and stuff like that. They get by with only 8 grades of education. Never say 8th grade, because an 8th grader can... an 8th grade person today in the English culture would be so much smarter than an 8th grade person in the Amish school. But the Amish kid is going to have to start an apprenticeship, guy and girl. More guy than girl, but they're both going to start their apprenticeship years, by which they're going to learn how to be homemakers, all that sort of thing. They can get married as early as 19. They can join the church relatively around 18 or so. They kind of want you to be old enough to make that decision, so no one's getting married at 12, even though there's a lot of myths and stuff. So I use a lot of the Amish and Anabaptist groups to contextualize our current societal systems in order to find that layer of contrast by which I can explain to you guys. And those are heady courses. They're going to be a lot more harder for some people to take, okay? They're more collegiate level, I guess, in some of them. I do have some really simple courses, don't get me wrong. I got one, it's called The Complete Guide to Visiting the Amish of Etheridge, where I'm not as much a professor, I'm more of a tour guide. And those are obviously a little bit more affordable than some of our other courses. Like I say, nothing we have at the moment is over $100, simply because I would rather make it on a bar that most people can afford versus a large sum that only a few people could even take. So I hope this helps anybody that's going to try to find out if there happens to be an operating company that's in my stack. I think I have about 25 websites or whatever. So what happens in this is that there is a few that, like I say, I make courses and stuff for. Josh is working on a dog-type course, all that stuff at the moment, since he's behind the Crockett Coonhound. We take our kids outside in the woods at night. I know, how dare we? But the whole world of vines, flowers, all kinds of stuff come out in the nighttime. And if you're a kid who's wanting to educate or use their education, we homeschool. Josh, his kid, goes to a public school, but since mine was also autistic and has ADHD, we feel it's best to put her under a system of homeschooling. Trust me, if you wouldn't want your kid around my kid, all right? that puts her in an educational paradigm by which I can also explain to other people. I'm very, very pro homeschooling. So anyway, if that helps anybody here to kind of explain, I would just like for you to go ahead and, click around in there and see if there's one of our websites that happens to have content that maybe can help you. But under this Progeny Adventure Group LLC umbrella, that's kind of how it works. Everything kind of goes through the umbrella group from these operating companies, all that sort of thing. And we would love to have you join on one of these. I don't think it fits everybody. Everybody will have to sort of pick one or two of them because they'll fall outside of the other ones. So if you're a parent that didn't go to the NICU, then the Preemie Paradox is going to be irrelevant to you. However, if you're outdoor-minded focused, then some of our outdoor type pages, like the Crockett Coonhound, is probably going to be for you. Some people that like to augment their education with something else could probably find something in that stack. But anyway, that's what the Progeny Adventure Group is all about. And so hopefully I'll find you in one of those operating companies. If nothing else, this has been Mike with the Progeny Adventure Group LLC.